Hi there everyone, it's Jaycee, welcome back. Today's card projects feature the Sweater Pattern Builder Stencil, new for December 2023. Let's explore two easy stenciled backgrounds for cozy textile-inspired patterns. Before we get into today's project, make sure you subscribe to the Altenew channel for more card making and paper crafting tutorials. My Perfect Pairings with Jaycee series explores crafting techniques that effortlessly blend sure-to-love new releases and well-loved Altenew favorites. If you love these kinds of crafty tutorials, hit the bell icon so you'll be notified of my videos airing on the 2nd and 4th Sunday. The Sweater Pattern Builder Stencil set features two 6x6-inch stencils. These stencils work together to create the characteristic knit stitch that fills an entire A2 card panel. You can use both stencils to create a solid knit stitch background, or use two or more colors for a knitted color pattern background. I'm making this card around the holidays, so it never hurts to have just one more card in your stash. I was inspired by the 2024 Pantone color, Peach Fuzz. I found a cardstock that was roughly similar in my stash, and I'll use this as my base color. This cardstock is kind of close to Pastel Sunrise in the Martian Terrain Fresh Dye ink family. On my Altenew Stampwheel Sticky Matte grid, I'm laying down the cardstock and aligning the number 2 layer to the Sweater Pattern stencil. Using an embossing ink, I'm pressing the pad directly to the stencil, capturing the open pattern for the stencil. Then with a white embossing powder, I'm completely covering the panel in white embossed texture. I thought this white and peach palette would feel wintry, but not an obvious Christmas palette. Then with the number 1 layer stencil, I'm aligning the pattern to the open areas of the knit stitch. This time I'm using Acai Berry in Dried Petals Fresh Dye ink family to fill in the remaining pattern of the stencil set. If you wanted a solid knit stitch pattern, you would have to fill this stencil layer with the same color you used on the previous stencil. Let's fill in this background pattern with our focal element. I love the layered snowflakes die sets. Today I'm using the second iteration of the layered snowflakes. I grab this die set every year around this time because I can mix foiled cardstock, glitter cardstock, vellum, and regular colored cardstock, and never go wrong with a stunning focal point. For today's card, I cut brushed copper cardstock, the same peach cardstock as my background, vellum, and white cardstock, from largest to smallest die layer. I only used the first 4 dies of the set. Then after gluing all 4 of the layers together, I added a little sentiment banner to the center of the snowflake. I foam mounted the snowflake to the center of the Sweater Pattern Builder stencil background and finished this card with satin white sequins. This is our first card inspired by Textile Patterns. I love how this stencil can be used anytime during the colder months, and it's not specific to just the winter holidays. Another textile pattern we can make only requires 1 stencil. For today's second card, I'm using Watercolor Stripes stencil. This one is an old one, but an Altenew must-have for your stash. Altenew has other stripe stencils which will also work great for this upcoming technique. I also have beach towel stripes and ombre stripe stencils. So if you have any of these stencils, make sure to get them out for this next pattern. Again, on my Altenew Sticky Matte grid, I have another colored cardstock. This time I have a cardstock similar to Arctic from the Glacier Caves Fresh Dye ink set. I'll start roughly ink blending this layer in Caribbean Sky for a monochrome blend. I kind of liked the more lived-in pattern for this background. Then once I have a variety of saturation on my panel, I'll move on to an analogous color, so you can go to a purple or green family for this next layer. I chose a fairly traditional tartan textile pattern, so I'll start by turning the stencil 90 degrees, and then applying Lagoon Fresh Dye ink from the Seashore ink family. Again, I'm going for a more organic pattern and fill. With whatever is left on my large ink blending tool, I'll brush the ink on the corners of the cardstock to distress the pattern. Then to finish this background, I'm using titanium white gouache and a watercolor brush to create alternating fine lines throughout the background. This is why I preferred the watercolor stripe stencil for this tartan pattern, because my lines could be shaky and uneven, and it makes a more playful background. Then with whatever is left on my acrylic block, I added white splatters for that distress feel. I complemented this background with a glittery sentiment. I used Starlight glitter cardstock from Ocean Reflection glitter cardstock set to cut the offset layer, and then embellished the background with seashore enamel dots. Thank you so much for another great year of perfect pairings with me right here on the Altenew YouTube channel. I'll be back in 2024 with even more Altenew crafting releases, tutorials, and other ways to craft your life. I'll see you again very soon.
Hello there! Did that video just spark your creativity? And do you want more project ideas and inspiration videos too? Well, if you do, please make sure that you subscribe to the Altenew YouTube channel. Also, make sure that you do click that notification bell so you don't miss a video. Thanks so much for watching. Bye bye.